Our fifth fraud risk principle ties back to that fifth area regarding our internal controls, the monitoring activities. But specifically, we're looking at fraud risk management monitoring activities. And the organization needs to select, develop, and perform ongoing evaluations to ascertain whether each of the 5 principles of fraud risk management is actually present and functioning. And they need to communicate the fraud risk management program deficiencies in a timely manner to parties responsible for taking corrective action. And this, of course, includes senior management and the board of directors. And very specifically, that audit committee needs to be concerned. So we're specifically talking about monitoring of the overall fraud risk management program. So this needs to be done in order to ensure that all of the principles regarding fraud risk management are present and functioning as designed and are fully integrated so that any changes or updates necessary are made in a very timely manner. We are seeking continuous improvement. So what do we need to do in regards to our monitoring activities? We need to consider a mix of ongoing and separate evaluations. Ongoing means it's continuous. We're continuing to look at our fraud risk management program and how are things working. And we need to also do some additional activities periodically. Get together and have some additional meetings and discuss it more thoroughly. We need to consider factors for setting the scope and the frequency of the evaluations. Consider changes that are occurring that affect the organization. What types of fraud risk that may be new to the organization. Consider the operations that have changed, the environment of the organization, any compliance or reporting requirements that may have changed that could have a fraud risk tied to them. Has the organization had any mergers or acquisition activities that need to be considered? What about changes in personnel? Again, the last time we went through the risk assessment, so-and-so didn't work here. They're new. Now what? Or maybe a person got moved from one department to another. Those things need to be considered. Don't forget about considering the results of your previous evaluations either. Again, the better we do a job of documenting our risk assessments and the activities that we do, we can go back, consider what was discussed and what was evaluated last time and what changes were made, and use that in our ongoing process. We should establish measurement criteria, kind of like what an organization would do with KPIs or key performance indicators. We should come up with things that we can count and quantify in regards to our risk as it relates to fraud. What gets measured gets taken care of. Consider also known fraud schemes and new fraud cases. Again, if you've got somebody that's a chief fraud risk management officer, hopefully they are going to be tied into the organizations who constantly disseminate things that have occurred in relation to fraud. And I'm going to give you guys some additional website lists that you guys can go to besides just the ACFE and these 5 organizations listed at the beginning of the Fraud Risk Management Guide in regards to COSO. There are a lot of places you can go out there to find out what's happening in relation to fraud schemes and new fraud cases. The FBI, the TBI, the Department of Justice, and others, Secret Service, etc. They all have reports and things that get disclosed every so often. Industry-specific organizations also disseminate data and information. For example, banking. We literally here in Chattanooga have a distinct group, very private and closely held little group that meet to discuss frauds and things that the banks have been a victim. And they get together every so often. We can talk about that more in class if someone wants to bring it up. We should also evaluate, communicate, and remediate any deficiencies. As we've said, this is a process, and we need to constantly change it and update it, looking at it from all angles and make it better as we move forward utilizing the program.